Okay, so we'll next to Osama. So Osama will talk also about blockchain and his views. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Assalamu alaikum. I do have a presentation, so we're just going to wait to set that up, and I will move over here. Okay. Thank you. But while they're setting up the presentation, just to introduce myself, I have a company called Mocha 7. There we go. So I have a company called Mocha 7. There we go. We're an emerging tech innovation studio. We're based in Seattle, but our operating regions are in Asia, in the UAE, in Middle East, and here in Turkey as well. We're coming and establishing ourselves. And we do a number of things. One is we help do emerging tech solutions for enterprises around AI, blockchain, VR, and so on. The other is we help to understand how to accelerate entrepreneurial startup ecosystems in different regions. And the third is social impact innovation consulting, and that's really what our main focus is becoming. And a lot of our work is based on a book that I published. We basically, this book and this framework helps us understand solutions that are not obvious and find opportunities using new technologies that people may not have considered before. Now, obviously, a lot of the fintech technology, and my talk in particular is around blockchain, and the technologies around it, such as digital currencies, digital wallets, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, and ICOs. All of us are more than familiar with these. Now, the question is, whenever a new emerging technology comes into foray, you have like two choices, like the brother mentioned. One is to use the technologies to do whatever we've been doing before, but do it more efficiently. And the two is to really rethink and explore the roles of our institutions to better serve the original intent of the institutions. And I'll talk about that in a second. But in a traditional sense, in a banking context, like things that we've worked with already are improving audit management and contract management and auditing of contracts. In an Islamic fintech context, it's Sharia compliance auditing can be improved a lot using AI and blockchain. We've done Awqaf and Waqf management of funds and allocation to different projects, and the transparency that blockchain allows for is very useful, right? So these are very simple, in my opinion, like kind of immediate, obvious solutions and opportunities. Our team has been involved in doing a lot of those things. But like I said, in terms of social impact, my question always is, all of us in our societies ultimately are here to serve the purpose of improving our societies, for improving the livelihood of our people. And when we have new technologies come up, we can rethink how in financial institutions, how regulators, how policymakers can all come together and build better, deeper collaborative partnerships to serve the end customer, which is the person and his possibility of success in the future. So I wanted to just share a few quick opportunities that we've been actively involved in ideating and building solution architecture for in Asia in particular. And I just use slides to show the people that we're sort of aiming to help, right? Sorry, it's not working. Huh? Oh, there we go. So poverty alleviation, right? That's immediately an opportunity where we have a way of using our new technologies for good, right? Could we go to the next slide? Okay, so I put up this innovation challenge in Pakistan about a year ago, which was in about 12 years, by 2030, can someone who is on the poverty line today afford a $1 million home in about 12 years, right? And this was a challenge given to the technology industry of Pakistan. We worked with different incubators to sort of run through different ideation processes. But the real answer for this was, next slide please. Then through blockchain, the answer was in fractional ownership. Right, this is a concept where in the US, let's say you have a holiday home, so 3 or 4 families will come together and buy a home together, and so they can split the cost. But with blockchain, you can scale that up to thousands and thousands of people owning a single property for investment. because blockchain is really good at tracking individual buying, selling transactions, right, at scale. Which means that property investment can now get down to the lowest income classes of society, right? Where someone who has only $50 in savings can invest the $50 and get back $100 in, let's say, a year. But that $100 goes a long way in places like Sudan, Vietnam, Pakistan, in many parts of Asia. And those 100 could become 200, and 200 become the 1,000, and that actually starts to make transformational change in the society. And the reason this is impactful and relevant here is that the reason we put up this innovation challenge was to work with fintech companies in the banking industry to say, this is a new emerging platform that can be created and supported by banks to facilitate fast transactions. And there's an opportunity both for money as well as impact in this type of solution, right? Similarly, blockchain is very, very useful for, in these countries, particularly Asia, verification of land ownership. A lot of the corruption that happens because some big people come and grab the land. And it's really, really hard because they can bribe everybody. It's really hard to verify who originally owned the land. But if you have property transactions, buying, selling, recorded on the blockchain, it's very easy to verify this. And there is an immediate real impact to this. Right? Recently, there was a study done, one of the most comprehensive studies on how to fix climate change. It's called Project Drawdown. And so, sorry, go back to Project Drawdown listed 100 actionable things that all countries around the world can do to actually reverse climate change. Because if you remember, we all know this, I think, in the room, Asia, Africa, we're on the short list of climate change effects, right? And one of the most interesting solutions that were presented based on scientific research was small landowners, particularly women, are given less access to financing for tools, equipment, and their land is more at risk of taking over by corruption. So small landholders, basically, if you empower them to be able to verify that the assets they have are theirs, and to be able to get quicker access to financing, can have a direct impact on climate improvement and climate change. And so this is, again, a way for us to both build a profitable new types of business opportunity as well as fight some of the biggest problems of our time as a team coming together, right? Next, if you will. So a lot of Asian countries in particular have power distribution challenges. And I'll speak more about this tomorrow at another keynote, but in power investment, one of the big trends in the technology field has been about firstly going from traditional to green tech, but then also from green tech to microgrids. And also, I'll talk about tomorrow, a lot of products that are coming out which are really about, in an African context, really useful for generating power in a neighborhood, in villages, in small towns, and so on, right? But always the challenge is how do we finance these things, right? And the traditional models have been, okay, we capture tax and we apply tax to large projects like dams, hydroelectric dams, and so on, or we ask for donations, right? But with ICOs, cryptocurrency, and blockchain, and these new technologies, we have a new model that can be explored, which is about the public directly owning the assets of the public. Right? So imagine if you have a new green energy plant that is going out, that is being floated to the public, and everyone invests money into it, which can be traced, again, on the blockchain at a very micro level. But with that money, you set up the power plant, and then you can distribute profits as a dividend back to the people who invested in that, based on your ownership of the virtual coins. And that actually creates a secondary market where the virtual coins, asset ownership of public assets can be traded among the citizens depending on their financial needs. These are new, incredible opportunities to help us, our countries who don't have access to that type of capital, very quickly deploy new power solutions as well as help the citizens, right? Next. And finally, some of the things that we've worked on is relating to the idea of giving benefits to beneficiaries using digital wallets. We've worked with a number of different solutions around this. But basically, for example, a waqf or an endowment is created to directly benefit either people who are on the poverty line or directly benefit patients in hospitals. The problem is, currently, this distribution takes forever, right? A patient goes into a hospital, he has an emergency situation, but the paperwork takes forever. Getting the funds from the endowment to the person takes forever. Using digital wallets and artificial intelligence, we've created solution architectures that can transfer the funds within seconds. So if a patient comes in, fits the profile, an endowment fits the profile, who has to fund certain types of solutions, we can make the match happen, record it on the blockchain, fund both of the digital wallets, and the funds get distributed immediately. Similarly, if you have orphans or poor people who have caregivers, but they need emergency funds, an endowment can immediately plug through that, right? And another example of that has been inheritance distribution through banks, which in many countries takes a long time. In the UAE, for example, that process takes over 12 months currently, because other than verifying from, first they have to verify from all the banks, all of the assets of someone who passes away before they can actually distribute it, the inheritance to their survivors. But also the actual getting the release from the banking industry takes a long, long time. But with blockchain, because of the verification and the audit trail of all of these assets, these approvals can take from 12 months to less than a week, and the funds can be distributed using digital wallets within seconds. And so these things make a meaningful difference. Like in our studies, we saw that in these inheritance cases, in many of the middle-class economic sort of brackets, the widows, for example, are waiting for funds for over 12 months, and in the meantime, it cripples them financially because a lot of them are unable to work and they have other situations, right? And so, again, this is how I think about, next slide, please. So I think about these things in this way, like social impact is not necessarily just for poor people, although if we are able to empower them, these become your best customers. Right? It's not just financial inclusion, it's actually improving your market share and market size, because if we can get them to a middle-class economy, they can afford $1 million homes, awesome, right? But more importantly than that, new technologies give us new opportunities for making profits, exploring new business lines, but also in a way that is focused on uplifting our economies and making our own citizens better. Because as one of our panelists mentioned, the West has their own focus, and we cannot rely on the technologies of the West to solve the problems of our people. We are ultimately responsible, and what these technologies allow for, and I'll cover this in more detail tomorrow, and inshallah, is that these technologies allow for building solutions that are very customized for our contexts in Asia and Africa, and our problem, and we can take ownership of our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Osama. Thanks a lot, Osama, for this. Without having really a social impact, technology has no meaning, really.